Oh, oh,
We're live. Oh my, yeah, she was stumbling along.
all right.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me and my very special guest. She is one of Broadway's most beloved leading ladies, and of course, one of Broadway World's favorites. You know her from her show-stopping roles in such shows as Gypsy, 42nd Street, Mamma Mia, Baby It's You, Bandstand, and of course her Tony Award-winning turn in the hit musical The Drowsy Chaperone, and most recently as diva Dee Dee Allen, a role that was written for her in the musical The Prom. Please say hello to my dear friend, Beth
Aw,
Leavel.
yay!
I miss you.
I miss you too. Oh my gosh. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm glad to be here with everybody.
I
Oh,
know. I
everybody.
love, everyone's checking out everybody's backgrounds. I love your background, where you're shooting from.
Thank you. It's our office. But like I said, we just moved about 4 months ago. So literally from here to here looks like an episode of Hoarders. I shan't show you the boxes that are all lined up. Eventually, we will get around to unpacking them. But I put some of my favorites up. That's a picture. Can you see the orange one right there?
Yeah.
Brooks and Drowsy and a couple of other.
I said what you've judged for this little area is very The Devil Wears Prada, just so you know.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. First off, how are you and where are you?
I'm in Rockland County. We've moved, 35 minutes away, not far. So I can still feel like I'm part of the city. And I am really good. I'm healthy. It's one day at a time. I miss work. I miss our community. I miss hugging people, but trying to stay safe and follow the rules. And I'm here with Adam and my cat Malcolm, and we're good. Thank you for asking.
Oh, that's great. It's been over 6 months since the New York theater shut down. I mean,
I remember that day. Do you remember that moment when I was like, what? Yeah.
Where were you two on March 12th? I mean, my boss, Robert Diamond, said it's happening, it's coming. And I got this text on the phone from BroadwayWorld saying it's here. And we were all set to do the opening of Six that night.
I know. Oh, I just had visions of them sitting in their dressing room with flowers and, steaming their opening night and just going wah wah. And, and I know so many people in company and the Mrs. Doubtfire is like, oh no. But I was getting my hair done. So I announced to the entire salon that, oh my God. But, we all thought it was going to be maybe a month, maybe, 4 weeks. And that was not the case, was it? And here we are, October 8th.
Because everybody that I had on the first few weeks, they were like, oh my gosh, when it first happened, they were like, oh, I was able to sleep. Because you know what it's like when you're doing tech and then you're doing previews and you're doing changes and all of this stuff. And or just regularly doing a show, they were just like, I was on that routine of 8 shows a week. So it was sort of like, oh, I could sleep. But like you said, everybody thought it was going to be maybe 3 weeks at the most. I mean, people left everything in their dressing rooms. No one knew.
I know. I hear stories of people, having the time to go back to their dressing room and collect their stuff after a while. Just never, dear diary, never has this happened in my lifetime. So 2020. Oh,
yeah.
But, so we're just trying to be as patient as we can. And again, coming back safely and healthily and bigger and better than ever.
What has amazed you the most and what has frustrated you the most during this time period?
It's amazed me how, even after 9/11, how particularly New Yorkers came together. We're such good people and would try to make the most positive of a really scary situation. And at 7:00 every night, I was out screaming out my window with pom-poms for the first responders. I mean, that always amazes me how our spirit can come together in a time of crisis, and particularly New Yorkers. So that's what amazed me. It's frustrated me that people, a lot of people don't take this seriously and are not wearing masks, stuff like that. And it frustrates me not being able to express myself. Like, I haven't really sung a lot and I haven't been on stage, and it's like, oh, that's what I do. That's my artistry. So I'm trying to keep that little flame alive during this 7 months. And because of this new medium that we're all discovering, thank God for it. I still feel like I can reach out and communicate and teach and sing and talk and just be with people that I can't be with physically.
Were you able to add structure back into your life right away, or did it take some time?
Oh no, it's still structure.
What's that, right?
Structure. Again, I said, I'm not wearing pants. So structure, no. And that's, again, maybe that's part of the positive thing. Prom had not just closed, but it had closed. So we were on kind of a healing period with that. And I had all these jobs lined up and they just went whoosh, as, we all did. And so, no, there's not really any structure. The only thing that's kind of shifted with not going to work and all that kind of that structure, that routine of 8 shows a week, is that I go to bed so much earlier and I wake up like a normal person. When you're in 8 shows a week, you're in bed at, 1 o'clock and you're up at 10 or whatever. And I'm like 9 o'clock. I'm tired. But then I'm up at like 7. I don't know who I am. So that's probably, I've seen sunrises. So that's another positive thing.
Yeah. The election is just a few weeks away, and I've asked everybody who's done my show, would you just mention to our audience who is watching from all over the world, just the importance of registering? Is that a word?
Yes, it is. It's a registration.
Why they should register and vote.
Yes, every vote matters. Particularly now, it is our privilege and our right. And I am so excited about voting, particularly this year. So I encourage all of you to find out. It's not complicated. Find out how to register, particularly the younger people that haven't voted before. Let's do it. Let's vote. I just finished doing this fabulous recording 2 weeks ago called Divas for Democracy. And it's trying to encourage people to register and vote. And I sang some people with Jinx, who is a drag artist. I can't wait to meet her. But she's on the West Coast, I was on the East Coast, and we were just singing, was celebrating Broadway and encouraging everyone to please register and vote. But because again, every vote counts. And I'm so proud to vote this year. I can't wait.
Jinx Monsoon, right?
I will sing show tunes until everyone is registered and votes.
Oh, I love it. You heard it here at BroadwayWorld.
Right.
She'll sing show tunes for all of you.
A registration, or what do you call it? A registration, y'all?
Yeah, it's a new word.
Y'all will get you, I will belt you a show tune.
I love it. So you sang with Jinx Monsoon.
Yes, but virtually.
Yeah, well, of course, but it's so interesting because I think when everything opens up again and the theater comes back bigger and better than ever, I think we're going to be so connected. I hope we're going to see, if you have a conversation with someone, I hope they're not going to be on their phone. I don't think they're going to be on their phone. I think there's going to be such eye contact and just connecting to someone eye to eye, right? And hugging.
I'm like a handshake or anything. It's just, we're devoid of all of those physical connections. So I hope that's true. We can just put down our phone, and I just can't wait to hug people. And
well,
I hope how much I've missed you. Like, I just want to hug you right now. Ricky.
I want to be one of your first, believe me, because I've hugged you for years.
I know. And to cut off that instinct when you see people, it's like, don't touch me. It's so unsatisfying. It's so like heartbreaking. But that's the way it is today until it's.
Well, that was the weird thing early on, because I was going towards people. And I was like, oh, you can't do that. So then it was that elbow thing. And then it was like standing 6 feet away. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait. And that's
not satisfying, but it's better than nothing, I guess.
And the first thing was going out in a mask. I was like, I'd walk by someone and say, oh, I think I just snubbed that person. Because, when you were wearing the mask, all you saw was eyes.
Right.
But now we're so used to looking at people and knowing who they are, but just by seeing their eyes, right?
Right. Yeah, again, dear diary.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought that I have a mask collection?
Totally. Okay. I love that.
My Marilyn Monroe mask.
I've used my masks up too. I'm getting more masks as we go along. I'm trying to get all my favorite shows. You go online and someone's like, I'll make you an Angela Lansbury and Gypsy mask. I'm like, I want that.
Thank you. Mask, it's our expression of fashion right now.
It's our new accessory.
I have a whole sequined one that I wear when I want to be really fancy.
I love it. All right.
But when I maybe just feel like being fancy, I'll put on. A friend of mine, David Joseph, who made my opening night dress for the prom, is a designer, and he has segued over to mask design making, and he has sent me some wonderful ones. So thank you so much. The Marilyn Monroe and the, vote, vote, vote. So yes, I am mask savvy.
Oh, I'm sure right now people are trying to find out where they can find him right now. I'm like, I
They
want one of
do.
those masks too. Okay.
They're great. They're great.
Well, I'll tell you, this coming Sunday night, October 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you will be live, and then a rebroadcast on Monday, October 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, doing your virtual concert with Seth Rudetsky as part of the Seth Concert Series. How excited are you?
Fasten your seatbelts. Fasten your seatbelts. You never know with Seth. It's so thrilling. Again, to be able to sing in front of a mic and virtually connect with you in any way, shape, or form I can't wait. I can't wait. And with Seth, you just never know. It's not like doing my own concert, because I enjoy not really knowing what we're going to do. He has like a book of my music, but I don't really ever kind of know what we're singing. I mean, I think, I'll sing some of my greatest hit, but and it's kind of thrilling. And we're segueing into stories that I had no idea we were going to discuss, or he'll start playing a song and I'll sing as many lyrics as I know, and then, riff. But it's always so exciting, and it's dangerously funny and wonderful. And like I said, you never know what's going to happen. And that's what makes it so exciting.
So you have a few things you've already chosen?
Not really. I mean, he has my book of, 100 songs, not that many.
The 100 songs at Beth Leavel.
That's it. And my hit. And, I have 2 hits now. My 2 hits, that usually like to sing just because, they're mine. I want to sing them to you. But again, you just never know what the second and third and ninth song is going to be, a story or something new we've never talked about before. It's just nice. And I think there's some other things I was reading online today. This is how I find out about it on social media. It's like, apparently he has requested people go and check it out on his website. But if you will sing a minute of Ladies Improving and send it to him, he's going to choose a winner. And then I think the winner is actually that 1 minute of them singing Ladies Improving is going to be broadcast along in the concert. So you want to sing a minute of Ladies Improving. You do. So let's hear it.
He does this. This is really amazing. Thousands and thousands of people send in these submissions, because not only does he and I think you choose the winner, they also win free tickets to the next 3 concerts.
Fabulous.
So everybody go to the SethConcertSeries.com or just Google Seth Rudetsky online. Believe me, it will just come out of somewhere. And I think the deadline is, they're usually Friday night before all of this, but it's some amazing stuff, because the last people he's had on, like Megan Hilty, someone riffed something and he was like, this normally isn't a riffing song, but she was so fabulous. He was like, yeah, go for it. And everybody do your version of Beth's song. Don't do Beth's version. Do your own. That's what Seth and Beth are going to choose. But it's really exciting.
Embrace that singularity. I can't wait. I just can't wait.
So, it's so funny. Everyone I've spoken to now is that not only are you the singer, I'm the stage manager. I'm my own costume designer. You have to get your lights all going. So
thank you.
Is this where you're going to shoot is this your studio where I see right now, this beautiful?
Yeah, it's my studio. Again, in between this and this.
In between hoarders.
It is. It's like, maybe that's another show. That's another series. Hiding my hoarders. The recording equipment is all over here, and all this high-tech stuff. The pictures that we haven't put on the wall yet are all over here. Show posters. But this is all you see. So it was like, please, let's get this so I don't sit here and break out in a rash because it's so unorganized.
Have you picked an outfit yet?
No.
But will you?
But I'm thinking, it's like, okay, how much do I have to wear pants? I probably have to wear pants. But do I have to wear shoes? So I have to have all those questions answered. I want to be comfortable. I'm in my house. So our mall that's close, which is one of the great things. I'm such a mall person. I'm embarrassed, but it's very safe to go to this mall, and the Macy's is kind of open. So you may have inspired me just to put my mask on and just go look. You can't try them on, that's kind of not following the COVID rules, but maybe find something fancy. Maybe I'll really get fancy.
Or wear one of your fancy masks.
Yes, except I can't sing.
I mean, to start the show.
Oh, that's true. I may like let all the masks have their little moment.
So,
Siegelman's beautiful, David Joseph.
Yeah. Have you and Adam, have you set up like a self-tape area that you've been doing? Have you been doing self-tapes or voiceover work or auditions? Like, what's happening with that?
Yes, this is it. This is another reason we had to get this so quickly put together. Yeah. What I'm doing a lot is coaching and master classes. And we're in the room where it happens right now. Room where it happens. This is it. This is it. Oh, look, my Tony Awards back there. That doesn't usually sit there. See there?
But it should sit there. It should sit there.
Maybe it should. But yeah, that's part of the staging. But yeah, this is kind of where it all happens. Adam's done. He had a TV audition yesterday. We had a TV audition 3 days ago. So this is kind of all where it happens. But this is where this is a positive thing, getting back to your question a long time ago about this period in our life, the COVID months, is that I've really learned how much I love coaching and teaching. It's just so satisfying and rewarding. So that's a definite positive that I've learned during this time.
Do you think you would have been a teacher if you hadn't gone into being a performer? Was that something? It wasn't.
Yeah. I don't know what I would have done. I have no idea. Like, what would you do if you weren't doing this? For a while, I thought I'd be an interior decorator, but as you can see, I don't have any skills.
Oh, I think you'd have a lot of clients, believe me.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah, but it's interesting. That's kind of made you think about, what if it never comes back, which it will. What could I do? And then I would teach, and I would be very happy. But a long time ago, the thought of teaching, I don't think I would have been a very good teacher a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, I think I have some wisdom that I can impart. And I think I do a pretty good job. So do my students. So that's pretty cool. Makes me very happy to teach.
See, that's great, though. You get to give back to the future, because I'm sure that's what you're teaching. And,
Absolutely.
Not only do you teach them how to sing or sell a song or something, you also give them, these stories of how you lived through all of this, and or how they should sort of start a path, right?
Exactly.
That's so great. That, I'm sure that's been so wonderful for you. Does Adam teach too?
Just Mama.
Just Mama teaches. All right.
Mama, today, you never know.
Totally. He may be like, move over. You could take Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He'll take Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah. And I do master classes with like some large groups too. And that's fascinating in this Zoom world, the Brady Bunch, format, and just to have conversations like this and talking about my career or questions they have about starting out their career, what songs they should sing. Is this story true about Drowsy? That's highly entertaining. And it's just satisfying. It makes me feel still connected to what I do and how what we do, particularly I'm prejudiced, particularly in musical theater, how it affects and reaches and touches people in such a specific, delicious way.
That's wonderful. Can people reach out in a certain way? Is there a site they can go to? Like if somebody wanted to have a master class with Beth Leavel, is there someplace they can go to find out?
Probably just reach out to me on Messenger on Facebook or something. But there's also organizations that I kind of work through, Broadway Plus, but just message for me on the Facebook.
That's great. That's wonderful. Listen, Beth, I want to go back to the beginning for a second. How was getting the lead? Is it Broughton High School?
Broughton.
Broughton?
Yeah. Broughton.
All right. You got the lead in Brigadoon. How did that open a whole new world for you?
Okay, it wasn't the lead. It was the third lead, possibly the fourth. Well, I think I don't know if I've told you this story, but that was my first musical ever. And my friend, Janley Herndon, who's went to school with me at Broughton, wonderful, wonderful actor. She talked me into auditioning for Brigadoon because she said it was a great way to meet guys. So I just remember not really understanding musicals because at that particular time in North Carolina, where I was raised, there wasn't a lot of venues that I could see musicals. You know, it's not like it is now. Now there's a huge touring thing in Durham and blah, blah, blah. And my parents weren't into it at all. So I was just bereft of anything musicals. I didn't understand what it was. So it was my first foray into, I just remember walking in to the rehearsal. Because, you know, in the high schools, you rehearse a couple of years before you do a weekend of the show. And I remember being, I believe it was the band room, you know, there was a cast of, a zillion. And I just remember looking around thinking, who are these people? Where have they been? And how can I be in this oxygen for the rest of my life? They were like me, but I had no idea that was even available. So to that show changed my life. It just something exploded, the light bulb here and here. But my parents was like, you want to be a what? I want to be an actor. It says, oh, so you don't want to eat. Because there was no, I couldn't make a living at the time, but it didn't crush my passion or my intense curiosity for it. And so I went to school and I have a degree in social work counseling. But I did every piece of theater I could get my hands on. And by then I knew, and I had some great teachers, and they really pushed me to not give up on that curiosity and passion. And lo and behold.
Because you said the third lead. What role did you play in Brigadoon?
Connie Jean.
I love that role.
I do too, but she was like a dancer, which is like, but I did something right at the audition. I have no idea what it was. And I wish I'd brought it up because, when you move, you go through all this stuff and you don't want to take crap that doesn't mean anything to you anymore. And I found 2 pictures from that show. That's right. It was like, oh my gosh. And I looked so blissfully happy being comfortable in these new shoes that I had tried on.
I love it. When I first saw you in shows, I thought you were a kick-ass dancer. I said, she's a fabulous dancer. That is a triple threat that can do everything else. Because when you look at your resume, the first few shows, which we're going to get into, I thought they were all dancing roles with like Susan Stroman choreography. This was big stuff. And, Gower Champion and Randy Skinner, but it wasn't that way for you, was it?
No. You know about my audition for 42nd Street, right?
All right, let's get into that because first of all, many people were supposed to make their Broadway debuts this spring and then the pandemic came. And I hope that when the theater comes back bigger and better than ever, they will get that chance. Debuts are so special. Yours, of course, was Anytime Annie in the original production, the original run of 42nd Street. What do you remember? Tell your story.
Oh, the audition is like it happened yesterday, most of it. Because it was so... I have PTSD from it. No, I'm kidding. I'd gotten my agent, so I actually had a big boy appointment. And back in the day, children, you actually auditioned on the stage. So I remember being in the alley waiting at the Majestic Theater. This is before Phantom came in. And I was in my fuchsia suit that my mother bought me to wear at auditions because she thought I'd pop with the fuchsia. And thankfully, I didn't know who was in the audience. So it's your turn, and you go through this alley, up the stage door, onto the stage of the Majestic Theater, with the set of 42nd Street. It had been running maybe 2 or 3 years, is behind you. There's a ghost lamp and a row of suits in the audience. And it was Mark Bramble, Michael Stewart, I believe David Merrick, I'm not really sure, Randy Skinner, and Karen Baker, who was Gower Champion's assistants, a bunch of producers, and thankfully I just didn't know who they were. Also, thankfully, they let me sing first. So by then I had figured out my go-to song, which I talk about in coaching, the song, if you have a finite amount of time, what's going to go in there and show immediately and authentically and singularly who you are or who you are as an artist. That energy. So I went in and I sang I Got Rhythm, and I held this belt note, and I put a little comic twist on it, and thankfully they liked that. And then they gave me the sides, to Anytime Annie, and I read that, and they laughed. And then they said, now can you tap dance? Now, I took 4 years of tap when I was very little at Betty Kovac School of Dance in Raleigh. So I kind of knew the vocabulary and didn't do anything else with it until I went to college, until I went to Meredith College. And they asked me randomly, because I think, again, people perceive me to be a much more skilled dancer than I am, would I choreograph? So I went and bought Capezio tap shoes and tried to figure out the tap and the shuffle and the flaps and all that kind of stuff again. So I knew like this much more. So I could probably fake a pretty easy combination if just give me a minute. But Karen Baker came up, and in my head, I remember this. I was so intimidated. They said, now you're going to tap. And I see Karen Baker rise, coming down the aisle, up the stairs to the stage. And, my soundtrack is like, do, 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 do. Like, hello. So she shows me the Anytime Annie tap break, which is not easy at all. And I remember literally feeling like I had X's for eyeballs. And I asked her if she could do it slower. And it's still, I just could not pick it up. So I took my Walkman, that's right, Google Walkman, and I recorded her sounds, and I would say what the steps were. And she said I had 5 days. Apparently, there's a bit of my memory that's lost here. I don't know whether I knew I had a call back, but she said I had 5 days to essentially improve, and then I would have a job. So my husband at the time, he was a better tap dancer than I was, and we rented a small studio. Remember Harlequin Studios?
Oh, yes.
Remember that it had, y'all have heard this story, it had 2 doors.
Yep.
This was Harlequin. This was the gay porn store. How do
The Gaiety.
Yes, it was
The
like,
Gaiety Burlesque.
oh, hey, so this is not the tap studio. Have a good day. And then, we're still friends. So I went up to Harlequin, and the floors were like this, and I went every day, and I worked my ass off. And when I came back to the audition, I showed her that, and she was impressed. Showed me how bad I was the first time around, which I was. And then I was told I got the job, and I went out on the national tour for 8 months. The show, the role became available and opened on Broadway. And I moved back into that was my Broadway debut at the Majestic Theater. And I did it for almost 4 years.
Yeah. What do you remember about your Broadway debut on Broadway in 42nd Street?
That's kind of a blur. It's like Tony nights. There's little specific things that are imprinted, but I do remember coming out in the Dames number, and I was in this huge, they used to call it the Big Bird, this huge orange thing. And I walked out my turn, and I remember thinking, do not cry. I was so full of everything. It's like, well, you're on Broadway. But the show had been running for 3 or 4 years. And so I was like, yes. And everyone was like, oh, calm down. But it was an amazing moment. And I remember just also trying to adjust from being in a national tour and then being inserted into a company that had been established for 4 years, and trying to professionally, segue and make that transition smooth and great for everybody.
What a way, what a show, what a production to make your Broadway debut in.
Yeah, it was kind of amazing. I mean, 42nd Street is one of those shows I think should be running all the time in New York, like chorus and ragtime.
So of course, a chorus line came back years later, and you were ready to move on to another type of role in that show. Did you audition for the leading lady, Dorothy Brock,
I did.
Maggie Jones? I call it the Carol Cook role, the sassy,
I did, not ironically, but they took the Broadway principals and the ensemble of the bus and truck and married us together in Vancouver. And then we all flew over to Japan, and we filmed it at NHK in Tokyo. And Carol Cook, I got to do it with her. I was just sitting around like this all the time, just trying to be a sponge and listening and learning stories and just adoring her. But yes, so the revival of 42nd Street came up, and I had an audition, and I was told I was too young for that, too old for that. And then they asked me would I stand by for both Maggie Jones and Dorothy Brock. And I was like, absolutely. I needed work. Who's going to turn down a Broadway show? So I did that. And then I covered Christine Ebersole and was able to go on for her. And when she moved on to her next job, they offered me the role. So I did it for almost a year, I think, which was really interesting. I was asking, I'm sure I should get a Wikipedia. Has any other actress gone from an original company in one role and been in the revival as another role?
Interesting. Well, I guarantee you someone watching this at Broadway World will start this and send us something. I don't think so, but that's really, really fascinating.
I think I've
Okay.
heard, not an actor, a female.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
Oh, I love that. That's a good trivia question. Now I'm going to mention one word that's connected to 42nd Street, lurker.
Yes. When I was swinging, I was a standby for the females. The man who was covering the Julian Marsh was actually Pat Denton, so he didn't cover. And then the three swings. So it was Melissa, Brian, and Luke and I, and we called ourselves lurkies. Because, you know, when you're learning a show, it's like you're backstage just kind of lurking. And literally, on my phone, we still call each other lurky. Like Lurky Malcolm. It's like, oh, Lurky. Did you call Lurky? We don't even call each other names. It's such an affectionate term. So, yeah, we were Lurky.
You had T-shirts made, didn't you?
Yes, we did. And hats. Swing set Lurkies.
That. Oh my gosh! These are chapters for your book, just so you know. So I think you should start your book during this
Write that down. It's like
lockdown period. The lurky. Just call it. The chapter should be called Lurkies.
Lurkies. My life is a lurky.
You have such a sensational stage career. I want to mention some of the highlights and just tell me what comes to mind, a great story or a memory, okay? Okay, another dancing role. Here you are. I'm not a dancer. You played the role of Tess and then understudied Polly in the Gershwin musical Crazy for You, of course, for director Mike Ockrent and choreographer Susan Stroman. I mean, how magical was that show?
Unbelievable. I auditioned 7 times for that show for Polly. And I think after a while, they just felt pity. So I think they said, just let's make a role for her, bless her heart. And Tess was this tiny little thing. So they gave me Tess, and then they kind of expanded it. But I'm not a Susan Stroman dancer. So they made Tess the dance captain, which we all know what that is code for. I remember Stro going down a line. We were doing high kicks, and she was like, okay, split, split, split. And she got to me and she said, you don't split, do you? It's like, no, ma'am. So, you know, there's all these great pictures with splits, and I'd be like in a side lurk. But full of character and lots of energy and style. See, I think that's why people misconstrue that they think I'm a dancer, because I do have a stage presence, and I have a certain energy that fakes that I'm a dancer. But I just remember one of the best things about it was my first original Broadway show. So to be able to do the Tony Awards and the Cat album and to have your DNA all over something that no one else had ever given birth to was a real privilege. And it was so exciting. And another moment about Crazy for You is, you know, being in the room with Stro and watching her magic and Mike Ockrent. Is you remember when the girls were lined up for and with Dan, and we were on that treadmill, and like the sun rises behind us. I could feel the audience gasp, and that was one of those moments in theater that was so spectacular, that was created visually and with us there, and we would sit there at night. Right before that, the scrim went up to reveal us, waiting for the treadmills to start. It was so exciting because we knew that we were going to make some indelible print on someone out there and would change lives.
That's another show that should be running all the time, too.
I agree.
Crazy for You.
I agree.
Well, then we have to talk about Showboat. Here you are, not a dancer. You're playing Ellie. What's her character? A dancer and singer.
Help
Part
me.
of a song and dance team.
I know.
For director Harold Prince, and again for choreographer Susan Stroman. How wonderful was it living in the world of Harold Prince, Susan Stroman, and Kern Hammerstein?
Holy cow. I didn't see enough of Hal Prince. You know, again, I was like the second replacement, but I remember my opening night, he wrote me a note telling me how he couldn't be there that night, but how much he couldn't wait to see. It was so, he was had such a kindness about him that way. But one of my most vivid memories about Showboat is that Stroh called me at my house and said, can you go into Showboat in something? And I went, well, actually, I'm 8.5 months pregnant. So if you could just wait until I give birth. So it's kind of a blur. I gave birth to Sam, a C-section, and 3 weeks later, I'm in Toronto for a costume fitting. So I just remember balancing having a newborn.
Wow.
And, I was the breadwinner. So I was so blessed to have a job to go into. It's like, these are not my breasts. These are temporarily like this.
Inflated.
This will change momentarily. And, what a great way to get back in shape, learning all that choreography. And I remember getting notes like, Beth, can you kick higher? It's like, I'm going to try. I'm really trying.
I just had a baby.
Even without the baby, I just like, that's my high kick. I'm so sorry. But I can give you a snap and a pop. But, Ellie didn't snap and pop. She just did the high kicks.
I cannot believe you literally had a C-section, handed your baby off to your husband like, I'm going to Toronto. I love that.
I got to go work.
I got to go to work. I got 8 shows a week to do.
8 shows a week. And then, what was great was my kids they would come in for matinee when I would see them. And so Sam's playground, he was a little young, but their playground, like TJ's playground, was the set for Crazy for You. The crew let him go in the car and up and down the hydraulics, at the end. And Sam and TJ got to run all over the Showboat.
Wow.
I'm like, you have any idea how lucky you are? People would just love to have that opportunity to touch these things and be in this world. So that was cool. They were like,
that's great. Speaking of dancing, did you audition for Cats for Gillian Lynn?
Let's put it this way. I was at the audition.
Tell us.
This was before I had an agent, and I would go every Thursday to get my to the kiosk to get my Backstage magazine, which of course now is online. And I would get my cup of coffee, which I never drank before I came to New York. But I was a New Yorker now, and as an actor, I had to drink coffee. So I'd get my coffee at Smiler's with, I think, like 2 spoon loads. And I would go sit down with my Backstage, and I would circle everything that I was going to do that week. It was very exciting. I was just so happy to be finally here. And one of the auditions was Cats. And I'm like, well, I'm a dancer. So I go to the audition. And again, this was at the Winter Garden Theater. This was before it opened on Broadway. And there were a lot of dancers there. There were a lot of people there. And everyone got a number. And I think my number was, 200, 300 or something like that. And I sat in the Winter Garden audience and I watched Jillian teach the combination. And I just remember looking at the combination and knowing there is absolutely no way. I don't even know how to do that in any way, shape, or form. And I remember thinking, well, just get up and do it. Just get up. Maybe you're, popping. Maybe that'll come out. You'll be funny or something. It felt like eternity. And they finally called my group because it was like a group of 20. You know how they do. And we got up and we started walking to the stage, and I turned around and I went out the front door and I said, thank you. I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to waste anybody's time. So that was my Cats audition.
Were you wearing your fuchsia outfit that your mother designed?
No, thankfully I was in jazz pants with leg warmers and possibly a headband. This was like Fame and Flash dance. That's what a dancer looked like.
And you felt like $1 million in that, didn't you?
I kind of like, yeah, I got this. I'm a dancer. I studied Betty Kovac School of Dance.
I've got this under control. I could do Cats.
Idiot. But this was right after I moved. So It was one of those Dear Diary. Today I learned I wasn't a dancer.
Were you a tour guide for a little while when you were in New York?
How do you know these things? That's so awesome. That was one of my temp jobs. Me, who just moved from North Carolina, who had no idea the subway system. But my job was actually a tour guide. I actually just had to get school groups from point A to point B. But sometimes they would go, what bridge is that? I'm like, oh, it's the GW. It's like, no, it's not. That was the Brooklyn Bridge. But I learned I was, I tour guided myself. But it was fun getting from point A to point B to point C and back. but that was my job. So I got to see like the United Nations, the Statue of Liberty, Ellis Island, and I learned how to get to those places. But that was a good temp job to have.
As long as you had conviction, yes, that's a George Washington Bridge. Even though it was the Brooklyn Bridge, a tourist wouldn't know. So it's like, as long as you sell it to them, they're like, wow, we saw the George Washington Bridge. It was downtown, the one we saw.
Yeah, well, they moved it since you got home. And I kept going like on the Circle Line. So it was a great way for all of us to get to know New York.
Including yourself.
Especially myself.
I love it. You know, you then stepped into the role of Donna in ABBA's feel-good musical Mamma Mia, another show that should be running all the time. How much fun was it living in the world of ABBA and that show?
It's one, I can never experience something like Mamma Mia again, because as successful or as loud or as enthusiastic as the audiences have been for all of my shows, there's something about ABBA that speaks to the world in ways that it's hard to explain. And it compels people to sing with us. And at the end, it is like a rock concert. So I never have felt quite as much like I was a rock star. It was like being in a band, coming up on that, you can dance. And they're like, wow! Because they just love that musical like nobody's business, and the songs, and I don't know, it was unbelievable. The state, people love Mamma Mia. They love ABBA so much.
You were terrific in that. Just so wonderful. Listen, and then, of course, you won the Tony Award for your show-stopping role of Dame Beatrice Stockwell in the hit musical The Drowsy Chaperone. How life-changing was that role and that show for you?
Totally. Complete. That's, I've worked a lot, but until Drowsy Chaperone, I felt like my career then all of a sudden exploded because of the role and because I won a Tony, and all of a sudden, who's that? And it changed my life that way. And it also changed my life. And this is the first role that important to originate and to really give birth to, because no one really understood who Beatrice Stockwell was. They were waiting for someone to bring her off the page. And, they auditioned forever all over the place. And I think they finally gave up and went, just give it to Beth. Just give it to Beth. Just give it to Beth. She'll do something with it. And that began my relationship with Casey Nicholaw as a director, and Bob Martin, and that lovely group of people. Oh. So that also changed my life, because I still have relationships with those fabulous people.
Because you auditioned for it originally, and then Casey called you and told you you didn't have the role, right?
No, I didn't get it. Again, partly because they didn't know what they wanted for that role. And so they went to Los Angeles and auditioned a lot of people like Eartha Kitt. Wow. So if you're wanting someone like Eartha Kitt, you're not going to have Beth Leavel. Eartha Kitt, do you know this? And Joan Van Ark, Tina Louise.
Wow.
But nothing happened. Apparently, they just, again, did not know what they were looking for. So they came back and continued auditioning. I think offered it to some people, and then the role wasn't big enough, and blah, blah, blah. And that's when I think they just gave up. And I got the call saying a job offer. I leave in 3 weeks for a 3-month out-of-town Broadway tryout in LA. So I'm like, okay. So I do, and I thank Casey to this day for giving me that opportunity, for trusting me.
What an incredible thing, like to start to auditioning for something, then told you don't have it, then they audition all these people, then the role it's actually created on you, with you, for you. That's the wonderful thing about original Broadway casts. You know what I mean? It's like everything. Let's bring that over. I loved it. Listen.
I'm sorry. Yes. And then this happened with that. Even was more satisfying because we all worked.
Yeah.
We worked so hard at giving birth to that fabulous person in that fabulous show. So it was such a highlight of my career and my life.
Yeah.
So many ways.
It's such an old school Broadway story about, getting a role? Because, you know, when you said when you auditioned for like 42nd Street and Crazy for You, you actually auditioned on the stage of these theaters. Rodgers and Hammerstein used to discover Shirley Jones, Celeste Holm on the stage of a St. James. The creators were in that room. That's where you auditioned, on the stage of these theaters. And it's
Right?
so great that you had that opportunity, and especially for a journey you took on The Drowsy Chaperone, because we would go back once a month to see you just stop the show. I mean, everybody, from with Bob Martin sitting in the dark for the very beginning, and then just the audience just taking that journey with that show. But what an incredible journey you were on with that show. And then you have a Tony Award and every other conceivable award to show for it, for all the hard work that you put into it.
You know, it was interesting too, because the show is not a traditional Broadway musical. I remember the very first preview in LA at the Ahmanson Theater, we had no idea how the audience was going to respond. You know, the people that had trickled into rehearsal were laughing, but that's, you know, that's rehearsal room laughter. That doesn't really count. And I remember right when the house went dark, and, you know, it stays dark, and the man in chair goes, "I hate theater." I remember Danny and Sutton and all of us in the corner backstage left, because we had to do some off-stage singing then. We didn't do it. And we were all holding each other's hands with our eyes closed, going, well, we're either going to have a job for 5 years or we'll be going home pretty soon. And it was all quiet, and we hear Bob Martin go, "I hate theater." And, well, it's so disappointing, isn't it? And the laughs just rolled. It was like, oh my God, I think this is a hit. That was thrilling. And then you know, Casey is a perfectionist, so everything changed in previews, and it changed so much since LA. And then once we finally opened on Broadway, I just think it's just one of the best shows ever.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to move on to, you have so many, I mean, you did Frau Blucher. I mean, you replaced Andrea Martin. I mean, will you do the wheeze, whatever it is, do that? Did you have to do that at your audition for Mel Brooks?
No. Oh, can I tell a quick audition from Mel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, so anyway, I was doing a regional show. I can't even remember what it was. And my agent said, "Oh, you have an audition to replace Andrea Martin in Young Frankenstein. You have to go. You have to sing that song. He was my boyfriend." Well, because I was out of town, I didn't have access to my vocal coach, Phil Reno. So I went, okay, this is one of those mistakes that we really learn from. So I got back into town, and I had literally, I don't know, 20 hours. And I don't really read music that well. They gave me the music, and I couldn't go anywhere. So I thought, well, I just left this theater doing Dorothy Brock. So I went to the theater, went to the gift store, and bought the CD. I thought, I'll learn it from the CD. Forgetting that sometimes the CD, what's on the CD, is not the actual full-length song. So I thought, well, I'm just going to learn it the best I can, go in, you know, snap, pop, jazz, be funny, and maybe they'll see something there, because I figured it was just Stro and her assistant and the stage managers or something, and then maybe I'll get a call back, and then I'll really have time. So I walk into the audition fully unprepared, but just trying to, you know, pull every trick in the book I had. And I walk in, and there's Susan Stroman, her assistant, the stage manager, Mel Brooks, and just a table, 50 people. And I remember thinking, help me. So I give the music, that he has the music, and I sing it, and the CD is not the same. And I did not do well. And Mel Brooks stands up, and he goes, to the best of my memory, "Well, now I know you can do better than that." Because thank God he had seen Drowsy.
Oh.
So they asked me to maybe work on it a little bit more. And I had a callback. And by the time I got to that callback, I was off book for everything, had pseudo costumed, and was ready to ask for forgiveness from Mel Brooks. And he wasn't there for my callback, but I did a fantastic callback. Thank you very much. And I was offered the job that day.
That is a fabulous story. I never knew that.
Oh, yes. Oh, I was terrible. Get the CD. Come on, Beth.
It's like, what did we have in high school? Those cliff notes. Remember
Oh,
those things?
that is like read, Iliad. It's like, yeah, I got it.
I always failed those. If I used a cliff note, I always got like a D on
Yeah,
those papers. I was like, just read the book.
I just
Stop.
read the book, but I was always in rehearsal. So.
Oh my God. We're almost out of time. We like I said, if we have 10 more minutes, but it flies by really fast. Elf, one of my favorite shows, The Boys again on that. I mean, you did that 2 seasons in a row during the holidays. You loved Elf, didn't you?
Oh, I did. And I went
Yeah.
from Mamma Mia to Elf, and to not Mamma Mia was that was a train that took a lot of energy to drive every single night, and to go to something so sweet like Elf and not to have to drive the train, just to be mom, just to not be the funny one, and just seeing that big belt number at the end. It was a great break for me, and the show was joyous. We were all hoping it would like run every year, like like Christmas Carol or Radio City, but that didn't happen. But again, I was able to do the cast album, and I just love that song. There is a
I love that show, and it must have been so great just to do it during the holidays.
Oh, it is. Oh, it really is. It really.
Well, I want to move on to Baby It's You. You and I had a lot of conversations during this. I loved that musical. You as Florence Greenberg. Oh, I love that show. I saw that show 4 times. Just watching you live in those 60s costumes and those songs and just the story. How much fun did you have in Baby It's You?
Once the show got up and running.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was, because we got terrible reviews. So that kind of hurts your soul. Not personally, but it's like, oh God, we're not a hit. But there were so many things about the show that the audience loved, like the music. And I literally had 26 costume changes. So all I remember is I get to the theater, the show would start to be like, I just don't remember much about it. But I loved playing her. I loved not having to be funny. And, I was on the marquee there, my picture, my face. Oh, it's up there, the poster. So that was a thrill to know that I could do that and do it well. And really, it was, once we got up and running, it was really, really fun to do.
But that was we saw you in a whole other side. It was really interesting. Every time I've seen you in something, everything you've done is different. And I think that took you to a whole other area, people seeing you do something totally different also. And a big kudos to Liz Wolfe. The costumes you wore in that show.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But there was just something about you in that show. It's like I'm seeing Beth in a whole different realm.
Thank you. One of the biggest compliments I ever have received, and I don't even know who said it, was someone asked someone that related to me. They said, wait, is that Beth Leavel the same person that was in Bandstand and Dee Dee Allen? I'm like, thank you.
See, that we also have the same thing. So I want to move on to Bandstand. Like I said, short-lived musical, why that never found the audience that it should have. I have no idea to this day, because I used to visit that show like once a week. I thought the story, the choreography, everything about that show. And then you played Mrs. June Addams. I mean, a tiny role, but you took that somewhere else. And your mom was the inspiration for that role, wasn't she?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I knew who that person was. And again, to be in the room for the first time with Andy Blankenbuehler and his genius was a thrill. And to watch him work, watch him storytell in his singular way through his dance. Like I told him the other day, we were doing something. You remember the moment in Bandstand where the guys pushed the piano on and Corey was playing and it was almost like Iwo Jima? I don't think that image to me is one of the most spectacular visual things I have ever seen in theater. It was just so stunning. And to play Laura Osnes' mom, she and I have a very special relationship.
You could just see I knew you became really tight during that show. Everybody did, but just you were able to take that role and make her so much more than what she was on paper.
Thank you.
I mean, we've told you this. I mean, we visited you many times in your dressing room. Preston came, my husband, and we brought Mark William. We all came to your. I mean, it was just so wonderful. I mean, just what you could see everything in your eyes. You could see into your soul, even if you weren't saying anything during those scenes.
Thank you. That's so meaningful. Thank you. Plus, my dressing room, as you well know, that was the green room. because
Oh, I love that. You took us back there. You're like, here we are, the green room, my dressing room.
no, it was like I had the
Yeah.
pretzels, the carbs, and the candy, and so it was like a big party every night because I wasn't on stage that much. So it's like, hey, now Kevin Morrow comes in. Now Kevin. It was great. It was really fun. So it was like I have to go on stage. Wait, I'm not finished with the pretzels. So.
But I love that you opened your room to everybody. That's what a captain of a show does, just so you know. That's really brilliant. We have to move on, of course, to Dee Dee Allen, the role that was created for you in the prom. I mean, what do you miss the most? Like oh my gosh.
Sorry, go ahead.
Who made that for you?
Jason Kent, my doctor, sent it to me.
Oh.
Isn't it great? It's a Dee Dee bobblehead. Yes, Dee Dee Allen, the prom. I don't know how I'm ever going to top it. I don't know how I'm ever going to top that. I said that about Drowsy and then prom. Yeah. But prom was one of those things, again, original role, really to have my DNA all over it. Oh my gosh. And to have that musical affect people, change lives so profoundly wrapped in a musical comedy world of entertainment was such a privilege and astonishing. And again, that journey with prom was, gosh, the highlight of my theatrical career so far.
Yeah, it was life-changing for so many audience members because I would visit the show numerous times and I'd sit there with parents and grandparents and young LGBTQ kids and just everybody who found their tribe by seeing that show, not just loving musical theater, but I learned so much stuff from all the numbers. And Christopher Sieber's number about the Bible, I was like, it's like, yeah.
Can't cherry pick. Yeah, exactly. The lyrics were so smart and the music, I think it's the best thing Matt and Chad has ever written.
Yeah. But I mean, just the company you perform with, you all created that show together. Brooks and Christopher and Angie and everybody and Josh, I mean, all of you together. I mean, I have to give you an official thank you because I got to make my Broadway debut in the prom.
I know.
2 Mays ago. And you have, when someone asks you something like that, you have these visions in your head and you were all so gracious and so wonderful. And you came early to the theater that day and you ran our scene, the opening scene before we went on. And I was just totally blown away by just the love of that company. And I was like, boy, they treat everybody on the same level in this show. And just there was so much love at the prom. So I wanted to officially thank you for doing this and just being a part of that.
Thank you. And there was so much love. We're all meeting tonight. We call ourselves the olds just because, boy, are we tight.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you saying that. And you were fabulous, by the way.
Oh, I wasn't looking for that, but thank you for that. Seriously.
Yes, you were.
I had the time.
BroadwayWorld.
I had the time of my life doing that, but you and Brooks, everybody was just so gracious on that scene. And Angie.
Before that curtain goes up, it's bedlam back there, and we all misbehave. It's just our way to, pump up the adrenaline and get in character and let's go. Let's launch this story. It's crazy. We all have the rituals, and I wish your character could have come back.
Totally, because I was waiting because the stage manager was saying, wait for the wait for the curtain to go up, and you're all dancing and doing all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, this is a crazy bunch of people. And as soon as you see the light below, you all just get into character, and I was like, boy, those are triple threats. They're professionals. I have to mention, you played numerous classic roles at the Muni, but I have to mention an iconic role that you played for their epic 100th season, Mama Rose in Gypsy, opposite your beau, Adam Heller as Herbie. How incredible was that?
It was unbelievable. Anytime you're at the Muni, it's 11,000 people. So it's always an event, and it's always, you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I worked months before, just to get off book so I could go in and actually enjoy myself. But what was so satisfying about that, I could talk about this forever, was I was so intimidated by the role. I mean, it's like the King Lear of musical comedy. There's so many brilliant women that have worn those shoes. And I was just intimidated that I wasn't going to be enough, or I wasn't going to get it, or it just wasn't going to be personalized, or Sondheim would be disappointed. And by the end of it, it's one of the best things I've ever done. So, I don't pat myself on the back very often, but I felt really good about that. And part of it was the direction of Rob Ruggiero and having Adam there and Mike Isaacson and that cast. Wow, Julia Nitel is my daughter. It was really, so I worked through my terror and it came out so joyous, and now I'm ready to do it again.
I love it. We have about 2 minutes left. I want to ask you about one of your latest projects. Can you tell us anything about the musical The Devil Wears Prada?
Well, we're supposed to be in Chicago right now. You know, everything's been rejiggered around, trying to figure out. I know they're still working on it. And we did a couple of Zoom readings, which was before Zoom was trending, which was a very interesting way to read the script cold and not know your cast.
Yep.
But it's going to be amazing. It's going to be smart, and Devil Wears Prada can sing. It's going to be a beautiful musical that can sing, and it's being creatively directed brilliantly. So I can't wait. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And I did tell you that, right, that the costume, the fashion houses that are referenced are going to make us a costume each.
I cannot wait. We're almost out of time. I have to mention, you were a zombie, Dr. K on Walking Dead. How incredible was that?
Because when you think of my work, you think of, oh, yes, a zombie.
I love it.
You know, I don't know. I got that job because one of the producers saw Dee Dee Allen. I'm like, okay. Well, because Dee Dee Allen is so much like the person she's dying, you know. But thank you. That was an experience.
Well, he saw you play Eleanor Roosevelt. So I thought to myself, that's how it's done. She had fake teeth. We could make her a zombie.
Simple. Yeah, it was fun.
Well, like I said, we're out of time. But again, your concert is this Sunday night, October 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live with a rebroadcast on Monday, October 12th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Seth Concert Series is produced by Mark Cortali and is sponsored by BroadwayWorld and StreamYard. Tickets are available at BroadwayWorld events and at the Seth Concert Series, and they're only $25.
Come on. Fasten your seatbelts. You better be there because it's going to be a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
I can't wait. I've had the time of my life. This hour flew by so fast.
Always, always. I miss you madly.
All right. Love to Adam. Everybody, stay safe. Wear a mask. Wash your hands, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
Stay safe. You're nailing it.